Showdown's
luck.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Tune in to Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. GB News royalty with your perfect start to the weekend. Lucky us! Feisty and fearless guests.
Well, I'm a normal person, so ask me.
Honest opinions that raises more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return. And a few surprises along the way. Might be cold in this studio. That is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. 8 to 9 only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there. Coming up in the Saturday Night Showdown, Trump has come under fire for claiming that Haitian immigrants are eating people's cats. It brings a new meaning to the term grab them by the pussy. But today, a Conservative academic has shared footage allegedly corroborating Trump's claim. We'll show you in a moment, and you'll be glad it's not barbecue weather here. And one of the supposedly far-right thugs who spread inflammatory, racist messages calling for violence against Asians has been unmasked. As an Asian man, is he Britain's Jussie Smollett? Or are far-right groups now getting diversity departments? And while Keir Starmer cuts fuel allowances for millions of pensioners, he's staying warm because he's got money to burn. This week, he's handed over £350,000 of your money to a company that sells zombie knives. Is this a zombie government? This is your Saturday Night Showdown. Discussing all tonight's topics with me are my brilliant panel. Joining me tonight are an absolutely cracking pair. We've got comedians, Justin Panks, looking like a random mechanic who's just been dragged off the street. And that's not General Zod there, that is in fact Darius Davies. But first, let's get your latest news headlines from Tatiana Sanchez.
Good evening. The top stories. A man allegedly sexually assaulted a woman on the same day he was released from prison under the government's early release scheme. It's understood he was released as part of the policy which aims to ease prison overcrowding on its first day on Tuesday. He allegedly reoffended in Sittingbourne in Kent and was later arrested at an address in South London. He appeared at a magistrate's court on Thursday, charged with sexual assault, and is due to appear in court next month. He's been recalled to prison. The Prime Minister met with the US President Joe Biden last night to discuss strategy and tactics regarding Ukraine and the Middle East. Meeting at the White House in Washington, D.C., the pair sat down for talks that Sir Keir Starmer described as long and productive. Speaking afterwards, the Prime Minister also said that he and the US President had reached a strong position regarding ending the conflict in Ukraine.
We've stood with Ukraine. Ukraine has a right to self-defence, and we've stood united, not just with our allies here in the US, but across with our NATO allies. That's very, very important to us. But today was about having the chance to talk not just about a particular step or tactic, but the strategy in relation to Ukraine. But also we covered the Middle East in some extensive detail, and other areas across the world. So it was a really important occasion for us to have this chance to discuss with our allies.
In other news, more questions have been asked about the government's decision to cut winter fuel payments following a vote earlier this week. Figures released by the Department for Work and Pensions estimated almost 800,000 pensioners will miss out on the benefit under the new plans. Of those set to lose the support, around 2/3 have a disability and 83% are aged 80 or over. Downing Street says a full impact assessment of the change hasn't yet taken place. A rebellion could be brewing within the Labour Party following recent comments by the Prime Minister around a ban on smoking outdoors at pubs. Labour MP for Newcastle upon Tyne East and Wallsend, Mary Glindon, has tabled a motion in Parliament against her own party in order to try and block the potential plans. In the motion, she praised the indoor smoking ban of 2007, but said extending the ban outdoors could restrict individual liberty. And today's been the first day of the Liberal Democrat Party conference in Brighton, with the cost of living, defence and veterans, climate change and, crucially, their plan to fix the NHS, just some of the topics on the agenda. Earlier this afternoon, party leader Sir Ed Davey arrived at the conference on a jet ski. He is scheduled to speak at the event tomorrow, where a celebration is anticipated, after his party won 72 seats in July's general election, their best ever result. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Tatiana Sanchez. More from me in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome to the Saturday Night Showdown. One of the bonuses of immigration is the authentic cuisine people bring with them from other cultures. What would British lunchtimes be without the traditional Indian coronation chicken sandwich? But this was turned on its head this week when Donald Trump, during his debate with Kamala Harris, caused uproar when he claimed that Haitian migrants in Ohio are eating cats and dogs. Let's take a look.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
This was condemned as a far-right conspiracy theory. The city manager for the town in Ohio, Springfield, said it's not happening. And you can always trust authority figures because they never have an incentive to downplay the seriousness of the situation. Remember, the city manager in Jaws said it was safe to go back in the water. That's because it was safe to go back in the water. And any reports of a shark are a far-right conspiracy theory. But there are residents complaining about pets going missing and eyewitness accounts of ducks being taken from the town's ponds. And today, Conservative academic Chris Rufo published this video from the next town over, allegedly showing cats on a barbecue. You may want to cover your cat's eyes.
Yo, what is this they got on the grill?
Is that, did they kill some cats?
Man, listen, man. There go a cat right there. His ass better get missing, man. Look like his homies on the grill, man.
I mean, I'm not sure if that was cats or if it was chickens, but this isn't the only issue. Springfield is a town of only 60,000 people, but it's had a sudden influx of 20,000 migrants from Haiti, a lawless, failed state where cannibalism and violence are facts of life. Sounds a bit like Scotland. So it's bound to create some friction. As the residents of Springfield struggle to deal with this sudden influx, housing costs are skyrocketing and car accidents, crime and insurance premiums are increasing too. Citizens have complained and been ignored. In one notorious case, a town meeting was closed down when a resident raised the issue. Now, I'm joined tonight by comedian Darius Davies and another comedian, Justin Panks. Now, Justin, do you believe they're eating cats? I mean, I've seen them eat worse stuff in Haiti. I've seen a video of them literally eating a person that was barbecued on, I think it was a shopping trolley.
I don't know, but that footage, I mean, that That didn't look real because Americans are normally good at barbecuing. That was like that wasn't even lit.
Yeah, but these people are from Haiti, so they might not know.
Well, I think it was. You remember when Donald Trump got in a lot of trouble for saying Haiti was a bit of a dump?
Yeah.
And now it turns to be. But I heard that apparently they only go for certain specific breeds, and you have to go for the Bengals if you want to eat like a Haitian.
So, I mean, I'm not sure if they are eating cats because they get welfare and food stamps in America. So why would they be turning to a cat that's an animal that's notoriously difficult to catch?
Well, cats are quite easy to catch.
Are they?
Yeah.
You sound like you eat one.
I sound like what? Like I've eaten it. I don't like cats, so I was like, yeah, eat those cats. I am actually allergic to cats, so I wasn't bothered to see them being eaten by Haitians. Listen, they enrich the culture in other ways and new ways by eating cats. Cats are a pest.
Do you think with the next phase, so, you know, we usually see a cycle when there's, you know, far-right conspiracies come out. First they say it's not happening, then they say it is happening, but it's good.
Yeah.
And then they say you're racist if you don't eat cats.
Well, these videos are coming out, but actually the point of the whole point is that there's been an influx of Haitian immigrants into this town, regardless whether they're eating cats or whatever. That's just the headline grabbing attention. There's actually 20,000 people influx into a town, like taking over the services and, you know, putting a burden on the state. It's like you've just put 20,000 any immigrants would be there. Put 20,000 Welsh people in there, they'd be just as annoyed with Welsh people as they are with Haitians there.
Eating the rear bit.
Well, eating their sheep.
Yeah, but that's a good point, because I mean the whole focus is now on whether cats are being eaten, when the real issue is dropping 20,000 Haitian migrants on a town of 60,000 people is going to cause, I mean, it's bound to cause some social friction, and the townspeople have been complaining about, you know, the effect on housing, the effect on crime and car accidents.
And obviously, like, the local cafes can't sustain them. If they've resorted to catching, why don't we? I've got two birds with one stone, and why don't we bring them to London to eat all the rats? That's just what we're solving the world's problems here.
And we saw the worst Trump derangement syndrome I've ever seen this week. So a father whose son was killed by a Haitian immigrant in a car accident gave a press conference, and look what he said.
I wish that my son, Aiden Clark, was killed by a 60-year-old white man. And I bet you never thought anyone would ever say something so blunt. But if that guy killed my 11-year-old son, the incessant group of hate-spewing people would leave us alone.
I mean, I was shocked to see this, Justin. He didn't seem upset that his son had been killed as much as he was upset that his son had been killed by somebody he couldn't criticise without looking racist.
Absolutely. I mean, if a career politician used a personal tragedy to score a political point, that would be bad enough. But what was this guy's incentive?
Yeah.
And like you say, just come out and talk. It's one thing to come out and say, look, I don't want my son's death to be used as a political football. He's using it. He's the one bringing it up in the political football himself.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't understand that as a parent myself. I mean, and why choose? And if trying to make out like the demographic doesn't matter, why pick a specific demographic?
Yeah.
So I'd rather it was a 60-year-old white man. What about if it was a 43-year-old Asian woman? What's insane? It's like, instead of saying let's not make it about politics, it's saying I'm going to make it about politics, but on this side.
Yeah, and he's totally made it about politics. He's done the thing he condemns.
Well, it was like I wish it was a white guy who killed him. What about I wish my son wasn't killed?
Yeah.
That would have been the better option. But yeah, as Justin said, totally politicises it, totally makes it incriminating. But also, some people now genuinely have Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
They can't change their mindset. They can't get out of it. Whatever happened. It's like, your son's just been killed. Oh, I'm going to use this to have a go.
But he's not a politician. What's in it for him? What's his impetus?
They do have teams that go around and coach people, and it happens in the UK as well. Like government advisors who advise people on what to say. And that's why you get people chanting, don't look back in anger after terrorist atrocities. People are sort of schooled and coached not to be angry, not to let their true emotions out. Well, Trump was widely reported to have lost the debate with Kamala Harris, but it's fair to say that just as in Britain, the media in America have a left-wing bias. But the media couldn't hide the difference in reaction when Biden and Harris visited firefighters compared to when Trump visited. Take a look at this. that was deathly silence for Kamala and Biden, but cheering for Trump. I mean, I think the people, the media says one thing, but the people react a different way.
Well, anecdotally, during my Edinburgh run, which is like the most left-wing kind of festival you can do, anytime I'd have Americans in my audience, I'd always ask them, who are you voting for? And without a doubt, every one of them was voting for Trump.
Yeah.
Even the most, like, you would never imagine it. You know, blue hair, you think, oh, definitely come. They were all going to vote for Trump. Yeah. So anecdotally, just my experience, I think a lot of people have got Trump is a lot more popular than they're putting out.
Firefighters, he's always had the blue-collar base, I think. Yeah. Blue-collar people in America seem to love him, or unless they were cheering because his hair looks like a flame. They saw a bit of work coming their way, maybe.
Well, during the debate, Trump said Biden hates Kamala, and he might be right, because shortly afterwards, Biden put on a Trump hat. Take a look at this.
Talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her.
There's Biden taking the hat off. Apparently he did it to show sort of solidarity and show unity. I think secretly it was a dig at Kamala, and he might be putting his vote where nobody's expecting it in November. There was also controversy around the fairness of the debate. ABC, the network who hosted it, have given far more positive coverage to Kamala, and Trump claims the moderator was harsher on him than he was on her. But the biggest potential scandal could be the claim that Kamala was being fed lines by helpers, which she could hear through these headphone earrings. The company behind the earrings didn't settle the rumours. Instead, they seem to suggest that she was wearing them. She was, in fact, wearing them, and they could help Trump out next time. Iceback Sound managing director Malty Iverson said, "We do not know whether Mrs. Harris wore one of our products. The resemblance is striking, and while our product was not specifically developed for use at presidential debates, it is nonetheless suited for it." He then went on to say that to ensure a level playing field for both candidates, the company is working on a male counterpart that it will soon be able to offer to the Trump campaign. Democrats dismissed the rumours as a far-right conspiracy theory, saying there are slight differences in appearance. And the headphones aren't even available to buy online at the moment. Well, I think the deep state might just have the resources to source one that isn't on the website and slightly change its appearance. Last week, Kamala Harris was spotted wearing an earpiece while walking through a crowd of journalists. So she's familiar with wearing an earpiece and possibly even feels unprepared without one. Now, Darius, what do you make of this? Like, do you think she could have been wearing an earpiece? It certainly would have helped her. Any time I've seen her, she hasn't really got the ball.
I choose to believe she was wearing an earpiece, right? Even though she wasn't. But I mean, this was the most composed and articulate she has been. Just the day afterwards, she did like an interview with a local guy for 10 minutes with a local news station in America. And she's just not able to answer the questions. She was going dancing around. I saw a funny tweet online. She was like, "What's your policy, you know, to improve the economy?" She said, "Well, I was raised as a middle-class child." And someone's like, "We don't care how you was raised. We don't care about your friends. Just tell us what your policy is." Yeah. But on that night, she was definitely more. She started nervously, but she was more articulate. And I wouldn't put it by like. She could, but I wouldn't put it by them. Apparently, there's all sorts of rumours going around about the debate. Yeah. But the debate is regardless. Neither of them came out winners. Yeah. It was I think they were both equal. Neither came out winners. But I don't think anyway that the debate, Trump's going to win. I'll put it out there now.
You reckon Trump's going to win?
Trump's going to win.
In the polls, what do you reckon?
I think the earpiece thing, maybe Biden had one in the internet froze. That might have explained his past. But I think, like, I don't know. To go back to the debate, it did sound like the way her answers, went to a crescendo that led on to the next question. It seemed very... maybe it was lucky, but I've seen her before and she sort of cackles and repeats herself when she's going, woke, we need to be woke, we need to be more woke, and she laughs to buy time. She wasn't like that. And I guess this is the first election I've ever seen that's actually about identity politics, because as Darius just said, people ask her a question and she says what she is, where she comes from. That's not... But people want to know, where are you going to take us? Yeah. So we don't... And I think the genius thing that the Democrats have done is when Biden was, well, in the late stage of dementia, he seemed to me, in the first debate. They turned the conversation to competency, who's more competent, rather than policy.
Yeah.
And now they've switched it. Like those old boxing boobs, apparently. They'd have a little skinny bloke in the ring like Darius, and they'd say, if you can last a round, you get £5. And just before you start, some big bloke gets in and beats you up. And I feel like they've done the old bait and switch.
They've done that with Trump. They have. Well, we'll see if he can still win. Well, coming up, we will assess the week's winners and losers, which include a fallen trans boss at a women's rape crisis centre and Keir's newly released thugs who have proven they were never meant to be let out at all. See you in a moment.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
I've got a question for you, Mr. Motivator. Each time I will try and do a couch to 5K, and I start, and then it stops, and then I'll have another go. It's baby steps, though, for most of us, isn't it? You've got to start slow, because I also see people go out and run, do that, and then do too much, and they get completely exhausted and think, I can't do this anymore. So what is it? You have to start slowly, right? Is that fair?
Well, with everything that you do need to start slowly. But what's more important than that? You need to identify an activity that suits you. Now, the thing is, you may want to do couch to 5K, but let's say you have a preponderance for swimming. Maybe swimming is what you really like, or dancing is what you like. You find the activity that suits you. And I have to say, you'll never see a happy jogger. They're happy afterwards. They have enjoyed the experience, but they're never happy whilst doing it. But you must start with everything.
Have you ever been out of shape, though? Because whilst I find you really inspiring, I feel as though you've always been in good nick, and therefore it's kind of come easy to you. Whereas I think, you know, there are plenty of people who have a tendency to put on weight. I mean, I can look at chocolate and I feel like I put on weight. You know, and it's a slog, especially if you've taken your foot off the gas for a while. Getting back into it's brutal. What do you know about that?
Well, let me just say this to you, that in the early days, and I can go back, don't forget 71 years, our activity level was much higher. But this is something that's really just happened in the last 30 years. So those 30 years, we have changed. We now spend more time in front of the computer. We spend more time sitting down. So that's why we need gyms, and we need to get up. Now, gyms don't suit everybody. And that's why I do free classes. Free club, you can join. Everyone can get access to movement in their home. But you have got to make that first step.
GB News, the People's Channel. I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's now time to go through the winners and losers of the week. Remember Jussie Smollett? He's the black actor who staged a racist attack against himself. He said Trump supporters wearing MAGA hats sprayed him with bleach and put a noose round his neck, which just shows why actors need writers. It's like a Scooby-Doo episode where he also burgled by a guy in a stripy vest carrying a bag with swag written on the side. Well, Britain has just got its own Jussie Smollett. This week, a far-right thug who spread dangerous, insightful messages calling for violence against Asians was unmasked as Asian man Ihsan Hussein. Screenshots of the messages obtained by police show Hussein urging people to conquer Alam Rock. That's a predominantly Muslim neighbourhood in Birmingham, saying, sick of these smelly scumbags, under the fake name of Chris Nolan. He also wrote, Birmingham first. We need to take back what's ours. And we doing P-word bashing. Now, before you start thinking he'd maybe just integrated a bit too far, he said in court that he sent the messages out of curiosity and to take a poke at others. Hussein from Yardley pleaded guilty at Birmingham Magistrates Court to distributing threatening, abusive or insulting material intending to stir up racial hatred. He was warned to expect a substantial custodial sentence and was remanded into custody for sentencing at Birmingham Crown Court on Friday. Now, he was given credit for a guilty plea, but what about other people who pleaded guilty? Lots of people pleaded guilty and then went on to get like 3 years.
Extremely
anyway.
harsh, overly harsh. I mean, I'm not saying that what they did was right, but I mean, it's the trouble is when you create a system or a society or whatever where if you're deemed to be a victim or being victimised, it benefits you in some way, like Justice Smollett, it does kind of incentivise you to stoke it up. And I don't know, this isn't quite the same, but I've been thinking about these online hate speech laws and stuff, and I was thinking about an interesting sort of hypothetical, if you like. What about if an anonymous account was used the N-word and then the police find out and go to investigate and that person's black?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the trouble with two-tier police, and now you've got two-tier legislation.
Yeah, and it's funny for all the people that are claiming, oh, there's no such thing as two-tier policing, everybody's getting treated fairly, even though you can sort of see with your own eyes people on one side getting treated incredibly harshly and people on the other side getting away with pretty much the same crimes. Those people, are the people saying there's no two-tier policing, are the same people who say that the police is systemically racist, which is two-tier policing.
Yeah, exactly, which George Floyd was about two-tier policing. Yeah. But, I mean, this is like, just because he is of the community that he has been deriding, it's still incitement.
Yeah.
I don't understand. So if you're inciting hatred and your cause could potentially cause harm to the Asian community, because you're Asian, why on earth would that make any difference? I mean, as on a human level, it seems very odd. It seems stranger. But in the eyes of the law, it should make no difference. It should make no difference. It's incitement to hatred. If that's the law, it's the law across the board. Only way it can ever work.
Yeah, and we've seen other people on that side, like Ricky Jones, the Labour councillor, who filmed calling for right-wing people's throats to be cut.
And he pleaded not guilty.
No, yeah, he pleaded not guilty.
And then they're like, oh, he's probably innocent then. Let him
he says, I didn't know I was...
I didn't know calling to someone slits was bad. I didn't know.
But if you watch that, you know when you're improvising and you're desperate to finish on a big laugh. When I watched it, he was going, yeah, we need to do this and we need to... He didn't know where he was going. He would cut their throats. I was like, oh, mate, you've gone too far. I know you're trying to finish on a high, but come on, you're going to get...
I know it's a tough
And his face dropped. He was like...
Uh-oh. It was like that Hulk Hogan Booker T. Little inside reference. But you know what's funny is that always there's like these things. Like if you remember after the Euros when everyone was like abusing all the black English players and it's all far right-wing racist hooligans. Yeah. Then about 6 months later, it came out that all the insults were coming from like Asia and Pakistan and stuff. They just quietly forgot that it wasn't the people they said it was. So I mean, I'm always whenever I see this on either side, he's like really too good to be true. I always like just.
Yeah, too on the nose.
It's like,
like the Justice Smollett was so on the nose. Yeah. But I wonder, is it just a modern thing where people are so addicted to retweets and likes that they will even sell out their own ethnicity just to get engagement? I have no idea why he's doing this.
Or maybe he just genuinely believed it. He's like...
self-loathing. I mean, I've been there at times in my life.
He's like, God.
Well, talking of things that are too good to be true, J.K. Rowling, she's a great woman, and she was right. Back in 2022, the Harry Potter author set up a private support service for female victims of sexual violence in Edinburgh called Beera's Place. She did this because the boss of the existing rape crisis centre in Edinburgh, Mriddle Wadwa, had criticised some rape victims as bigoted and holding prejudice against transgender people and said they need to reframe their trauma. Also, Mriddle Wadwa is a biological male who identifies as a woman, just like me. J.K. Rowling thought that women accessing a rape crisis centre might not need a bloke in a frock telling them they're bigots, so she funded an alternative service where women would be treated by women. Rowling was condemned as transphobic and far-right for doing this, obviously. Well, this week, a damning report commissioned by Rape Crisis Scotland found that under Mriddle Wadwa's leadership, the service damaged survivors, provided no safe space for women, and failed to protect women and girls in its care. From now on, women who've suffered sexual violence will be directed to J.K. Rowling's service. Mriddle Wadwa, seen here with fellow gender ideological nutjob Nicola Sturgeon, has now been forced to quit after being found to have failed to set professional standards of behaviour and did not understand the limits on her role's authority. Wadwa was also previously identified by an employment judge as the invisible hand behind a witch hunt against staff who had gender-critical views. And by gender-critical views, we basically just mean thinking that women exist and people like me can't become women just by changing our pronouns on Twitter. Now, you think J.K. Rowling, she's been proven right over the hate crime laws, and it looks like this is another stunning victory for J.K. Rowling.
You know what? So they're saying, oh, this actually hurts if trans women as well.
Yeah.
Because, like, most trans people, they just want to go about their day, do their job, and they agree, like, there are women's spaces, and they don't want to get involved in it. Then you've got someone who's insisting that, oh, we must do that, and then calling actual women who are rape survivors bigoted and stuff. It creates animosity towards the trans community.
Yeah.
It's like, we just want to live our life. We don't want to insert ourselves into all of this. And then now they're being another punching bag because that Woodwell, whatever their name was, wants to make a stance and insert themselves into places where they shouldn't be. Let women have their spaces. And obviously, J.K. Rowling's been proved right. When Mermaid reports come out, it's like, it comes out time after time.
It seems like common sense. Like, if there's a trans activist who wants to run a female rape crisis centre, that seems like not the right place for somebody to be pushing trans ideology. It's like, push it somewhere else. You've got plenty of primary schools.
Poor women.
You know?
Yeah, these poor women have suffered horrific crimes, right? We're not talking about sport or toilets. This is like women that would be triggered by, they just need to be away from men, possibly. And it's just sort of like, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like a wolf in sheep's clothing, isn't it? I mean, it's almost like as if the BBC gave a notorious paedophile a show surrounded by children where he made their dreams come true. I mean, you would never do that, would you? It's absolutely insane.
It could never happen.
He means Jimmy Savile.
That's exactly what he meant, Darius. Well done. There were crazy scenes this week as Keir Starmer released hundreds of prisoners to make space for people arrested during the riots. Champagne corks popped outside prisons as inmates were freed early. Some were in prison for serious violence offences. Lawson Natty was one lag who got out after serving just 6 months for his role in the machete killing of a 14-year-old boy. One drug dealer said he was now a lifelong Labour voter. Maybe this is all just electioneering for Keir. He's recruiting Labour support from the only growth demographic in Britain, criminals. Incredibly, one of the men freed from prison under the government's early release scheme has already been charged with sexual assault after a woman was allegedly assaulted in Kent. British Transport Police officers responded to a call from Sittingbourne railway station on Tuesday to reports of an incident and arrested a man named as Amari Lyndon Ward. Still, Keir no doubt thinks it's worth it, so he can make space to lock up an 81-year-old for farting at a police horse. And while we free prisoners to make space for people who sent some naughty tweets or shouted at a police dog, our prisons are chock full of foreign criminals. Richard Tice from the political party Reform suggested that the government should deport foreign criminals, as this would free up space and save the country billions of pounds. And we'd get rid of the criminals too, unless they jumped on a boat and came back in. Some of the people being sent to prison have barely committed a crime. One man got 10 weeks for offensive memes that were much less offensive than anything in our Allah Akbar WhatsApp group, Darius. And in the communist Soviet Union, they had a system where innocent people were sent to the gulag for being political dissidents, and criminals were freed to the streets.
I actually have to be honest. I'm actually for this policy. This has been good, letting them release prisoners early.
That's only because you're likely to be a prisoner.
No, it's because I got to see my dad, and that was nice. No, but it didn't take Labour long to do what everyone said they would do for them to do. But what's funny is that look, we're the kind and caring and compassionate party, and we're going to take the winter fuel allowance. We're going to release criminals onto the streets, and we're going to imprison people for memes. But it sounds so outrageous. Yeah. People don't believe it's true. Yeah. But it's actually happening. But people don't believe that people are going to prison for memes.
If someone said this a month ago, I would have said that is far-right lunatic conspiracy theory, as if.
Exactly.
I mean, what are they doing? Yeah. Are they just trying to demoralise and confuse everyone? This is clearly not a good idea. No one can think it's a good idea. They know it's not a good idea. Yeah. They must do.
It's the worst headlines I've ever seen for a political party. It's like criminals popping corks,
machete
attackers being freed to make space for
what is the actual... What are they doing? Because they can't be... I mean... You go from scrolling, to seeing like the police knocking on someone's door and taking someone off for posting something on Facebook to people popping champagne corks and going back to prison within like 2 days.
Well, next on the Saturday Night Showdown, it's Culture Corner, where we'll be talking about school kids as young as 4 being sent home every day for racism. See you in a moment.
That's impressive.
Hello, good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, we've got a bit of a mix in the weather for this weekend. Sunny spells, blustery showers, also some cloud and some outbreaks of rain, but lots of fine weather around too. And the reason for this mix is that we've got high pressure to the south giving us those fine conditions, but we've also got a weather front that's slowly sinking its way southeastwards across the country, bringing us that cloud and rain. Now, as we head into this evening, that cloud and rain will slowly move its way into northern areas. And behind it, we've got plenty of blustery showers moving their way into western parts of Scotland. But to the far south, that's where it's going to be clear and dry and feeling quite chilly as soon as the sun goes down tonight. May even see a little bit of grass frost in rural spots down to the south. So to start Sunday then, as I say, plenty of showers moving their way into western and northern parts of Scotland, across Northern Ireland and just into the Scottish borders. A fairly cloudy start that will break up as we head through the day. Cloud and outbreaks of rain and drizzle, which could be a touch heavy over hills across northern areas of England and Wales. But as I say, across the south after a chilly night, that is going to make it feel cold on Sunday to begin with. Through the day, though, things are going to warm up. Where we have this band of cloud, rain and drizzle, that may just linger on for a time, so quite a damp day for some northern areas of England and Wales. Sunny spells and blustery showers through into Scotland. Some of these could be heavy with some hail and thunder. But once again, down to the south and southeast, that's where they'll hold on to the warmer weather and largely dry as well. Now, for the start of the new week, we'll start to see high pressure taking hold, which means for most of the country, largely fine and dry conditions, plenty of sunny spells around. You might just see a build of high cloud in the northwest with a weather front down out into the Atlantic. And that high pressure does hold on, which means plenty of fine and settled weather for the beginning of next week.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either. This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets and my take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. It was revealed this week that 60 school children are sent home from school every day for racism, and some are as young as 4. Last year, 11,619 children were sent home from school for alleged racist behaviour. This is up 25% on the year before. Are we seeing an epidemic of racism? Some activists think so. Joe Studholme, a self-appointed expert, bleated, "Too often children pick up racist views from their parents and caregivers." And teachers' trade union leader Daniel Kebede said, "These figures should be a wake-up call." Yeah, a wake-up call that teachers and police are being way too heavy-handed and people are maliciously throwing around accusations of racism. Some of the playground remarks logged as racist incidents by primary school staff include comments that another child's hair was different and a pupil aged under 11 who had used the word chocolate when asked to describe a classmate's skin colour. That's a trap. She was literally asked to describe her classmate's skin colour and she used a nice word. She said chocolate. I mean, what's she supposed to say? One incident involving a 5-year-old girl was deemed a racist incident after she made comments about a classmate's different hair and brown skin, and a 9-year-old boy was logged as being involved in a racist incident after he walked up to an 11-year-old girl and said, "You're a turkey, from Turkey before pretending to be a turkey in front of her. I mean, experts have said that recording such incidents as racist is largely due to teachers covering their backs, and the police have come under fire for the same risk-averse stigma attached. I think there's going to be a stigma attached to these kids because they're being accused of racism. That's going to stick to them in the playground, and all the kids are told that, you know, racism is the worst thing you can be, apart from not being transgender. Racist is the worst thing you can be. So they're going to get bullied.
I mean, this is crazy when a 4-year-old is being accused of racism. Although there is that funny video, I did see a meme one time where a little girl's eating all the cake or something, and the mum says, "Who ate all the cake?" And she went, "A man broke in." And she went, "He what?" "Yeah, he broke in and he robbed and he ate all the cake." And she went, "Yeah, he ate all the cake. And he was black." So maybe they can be racist. It's really funny video.
But the thing is, these are children. I mean, I've had children, and some of the stuff that come... What's next? Do you have them sectioned?
Yeah.
Because they go, "Oh, leprechauns live at the end of a rainbow." And you go, "Oh, they're mental." They're not, they're just children. And also, what constitutes... Well, obviously, this is the trouble with what people would call woke. I mean, we all agree that maybe... Well, not maybe, but, you know, like, things are bad. Like, racism, transphobia is bad. But how far do you come down where you think, like, what constitutes being racist?
And also, what's more important to the police? They seem to turn up very quickly if there's any suggestion of any sort of bigotry or transphobia or racism. But if you try and get them to turn up to a car that's been broken into, you know, actual real crime, the only way you can get them to turn up is if you say, "Oh, and by the way, the guy misgendered me at the same time."
Well, I think the thing is, police have these quotas and numbers and targets, and they used to be like... But it seems like now they're just... I don't know what the agenda is. They can't wait, or they're trying to usher people into these... They're trying to make people racist. They want as many... How many children can we brand as racist? Again, I don't know what the end game is. And like you say, it's a stigma. If I got a letter home that my children was... I mean, it would be like one of the worst, you know, apart from dying, I guess, it'd be worse. But, you know, like, sort of going, "Oh, this horrible thing," and you think, "They haven't heard it from me." And it's just this whole... They just want everyone to be threatened and spread. They're children.
And there's such a fear of looking racist in the authorities. And the Manchester Arena bombing, that could only take place because the security guard was afraid of approaching the man out of fear of looking racist. He thought if he stops this man and he doesn't have a bomb in his backpack, he's going to get accused of racism.
Well, you know what would be interesting to see what the figures are for who are the people per doing the racism. Is it all white kids? Because I know...
And what is it?
Well, because I went to school and, everyone would have been racist, and we were from everywhere. If that is if you call someone a turkey from Turkey, then everyone in my class would have been racist, and they were all from Turkey.
Well, this week brought the crazy news that companies who sell zombie knives are taking advantage of a government knife amnesty scheme to get hundreds of thousands of pounds of taxpayers' money. The scheme encourages people to hand in their knives, giving them 10 quid each for each blade they give to the police. But the companies, Sporting Wholesale Limited and Anglo Arms, are using the scheme to shift thousands of unsold knives. The knives sold by these companies have been used in a string of killings, including that of 14-year-old Gordon Galt, who was killed with a machete in Newcastle in 2022. One of the guys involved in the killing is to be released as part of Keir Starmer's prisoner release scheme after serving just 6 months. So is this just showing how any system gets gamed, Justin? You've set up this system, you're trying to get knives off the street, so you say, "We'll give you 10 quid for every knife you hand in." Then there's a company with all this unsold stock, and they're like, "We can make a profit here."
Yeah, of course.
They get 350 grand for handing over a warehouse full of knives.
I mean, here's a problem, knife crime in a lot of inner cities where I live. I look at the kids around me, I think we need a fork amnesty, because they are fat little whatever. But, you know, of course it is. Whenever you bring in money, you bring in corruption, and it's just like, again, it's like I don't know, if you really wanted to solve knife crime, there's a lot... You know, they do away with things like stop and search, which is a way that you would actually deal with it. And these are the sort of sentences that should be harsher. These are laws that should be applied more, and the sentences should be swifter. But no, they'd rather like send the resources on Facebook posts and memes, and they'd rather get this, like you say, a company that's loophole in it. It's just...
And nobody's going to hand in a knife. There's not going to be a gang out there with a machete that they're going to use in an attack who's like, "Oh, I'm going to hand this in to the police." You're only going to get the people who are not going to hand it in. Or if they do hand it in, it's because it's worth less than a tenner. Make some money.
Actually, what's outrageous? You said someone got killed, and guy's only served 6 months and he's already out.
Yeah.
How can that in any way, shape or form be acceptable to... How can you kill someone and only serve 6 months
They've got to
in
make
prison?
space. They've got to make space for
I need to
81-year-olds.
double check. But here,
no, he wasn't. He was just involved in the killing. He didn't
okay.
actually, you know, strike the blow.
Well, as a conspiracy theorist, what I would say is check out who the owners are and what links they have to the government where they get doing this buyback scheme. Because we found out during COVID that a lot of them are friends with politicians when there's money to be handed out.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be
keeping the lockdown grift rolling.
Listen, you can't. If I was that knife company, I had loads of unsold stock, and you could sell it to get them to buy it for £10. You can't blame them. But it'd be interesting to see. Kind of if there's any connections. I bet I wouldn't be surprised if there was.
Man, if we could import knives from China for less than £10 each, we could make a profit.
Yeah, actually, that's quite a good idea.
Michael Jackson's daughter, Paris Jackson, is a model and actress, and she's absolutely stunning. She's the second child and only daughter of Michael Jackson and Debbie Rowe. And she's got some resemblance to Michael. She's white, she's got a thin nose, and she's a woman. The only problem is, Michael didn't start off looking like that. Unless Michael Jackson found a way to pass on his skin bleaching and plastic surgery, I don't think Michael Jackson is her real dad. This is a real James Hewitt moment for me when I realised this. And then I Googled and found out that earlier this year, Paris's mother admitted that Michael is not the biological father. But yeah, who do you reckon her dad is?
I don't know, but I didn't know if he knew. Because I heard that when he found out, he went to throw off a balcony and then saw the paparazzi and went, "No, I'm just joking," and pulled her back in again. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think he was
capable of maintaining.
I think he was capable. I think that's not his lane.
Oh,
I
that's
think
not his particular attraction was.
I don't think so. I don't think he's going to have like kids running around everywhere like. If I was Michael Jackson's position...
He seemed to have quite a lot of kids running around.
Yeah, but I don't know where they come from. I don't know if they come from him.
Yeah.
But, you know...
Michael Jackson's innocent of all these malicious claims, and he's got a very beautiful daughter. And if he's not the biological father, I'm sure the biological father is a fine, upstanding, handsome individual.
And he was never convicted. Let's not forget that.
He's an innocent man.
Just like Jimmy Savile. He's never convicted.
Jimmy Savile, an innocent man as well.
Well, next on the Saturday Night Showdown, we've got more crazy stuff coming up in Clown World. See you after the break.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
I'm now joined by a truly inspirational man. He's an endurance runner, Ben Smith. 401 marathons in just 401 days for mental health and well-being. He was spurned on after being bullied as a child, was able to raise a whopping £250,000. I'm pleased to say that he joins me now. Right, so this was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yes.
How long ago was it?
Well, we're coming up to, I think next year, roughly about 10 years since we started it. In 2026 will be 10 years since we finished.
So when did you run the marathons?
So it was between 2015 and 2016, over the course of 401 days, all around the UK.
What kind of madness was that?
Oh, it was an adventure, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, on day one when we started in Bristol, never ever thought that the project would ever become what it became. But over the course of the 401 days, we ran with 13,500 people within 8 miles of everywhere on the British mainland, from Land's End to John O'Groats. So...
And that was the journey from Land's End to John O'Groats?
Yeah. We covered so many different communities around the UK because I suppose the reason why I was doing it was to raise so much money for 2 anti-bullying charities that we wanted to include people in that. And yeah, I got to run in some amazing places.
I bet you did. What would you say is a beautiful place? I mean, the whole country, I love this country, but there are some outstanding, beautiful areas around. What would you say?
Oh, definitely.
Where's the best place that you run?
Well, I think I've got a few, but I think I would say probably the Highlands of Scotland.
I knew you were going to say somewhere like that.
Yeah, just the kind of vastness of it, the dramaticness of it. I remember running up and down one of the paths in the Highlands near Glencoe and coming face to face with a wild stag. So it was quite scary.
What did it do?
It did nothing. It did absolutely nothing. It was quite used to people because of the path.
What are you doing here? This is my house.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Queer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. It's time now for Clown World, and we've seen some crazy footage from the war in Ukraine. This week we saw what looked like Russian holidaymakers drag a sea mine up the beach. Take a look at this. Look at this. So that's the sea mine. You can see it being filmed there, being lifted up the beach. They're rolling it up the beach. They must have good health insurance in Russia.
They must
hit it with rock, Vlad.
They must know what it is as well.
They must know.
Ever since I've never seen one, but sea mines and quicksand are like those things that were ubiquitous when I was a kid.
Yeah, they're in it, all those comics.
Yeah, every comic, yeah. So what, I mean...
And, like, I understand that sea mines are designed to they just explode in proximity to boats.
Yeah.
Because they react to the steel or something like that. But, like, what if you've got some steel in your watch? And I don't know, I just wouldn't go anywhere near it.
Oh, they're all stood around. I'd have been... I'm not that quick on my feet, but I'd have been running as fast as I could away from it.
Yeah.
I thought they went off if you just pushed them.
That's a landmine.
Well, same in the sea.
But I've seen Russian soldiers when they're dealing with landmines, just chucking them around as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like chucking it almost like you're shoveling coal or something like that. That was sent in by David Von Jones, by the way.
Oh, was that sent in by David Von Jones?
Yeah.
That's a good video he sent in there.
Yeah, but you see, like when we discover a bit of ammunition or armament in the UK, like they evacuate everything for like 500 meters.
Or a bit of asbestos in a building. They've got to shut the whole street down and they come in hazmat suits.
Yeah, but one time Leo and I were on holiday in Australia and we saw a little octopus in the sea. So we were like, oh, this is cool, let's play with this octopus. Blue ring started flashing. Anyway, we Googled it. It's the blue ring octopus. It's about that big and it's got enough venom to kill like a man easily or like 20 of me. And it was just we were just poking it. So we were
with it, like, it was going over our hands and stuff.
If you see anything that's alive in Australia and you pick it up, I think that's the Darwin Awards. You are. That's worse than everything that kills you.
That's what I'm saying. I can't be that harsh on that Russian guy.
No, you can't.
Although, I mean, it was a little blue octopus. It wasn't a big sea mine.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Muslim politician Sanija Ameti has resigned from leadership of the Liberal Green Party in Zurich after an uproar over pictures she posted to social media of her using a Christian painting of Madonna and Child as target practice for her shooting. That's the original Madonna and Child, by the way. It's not the pop star Madonna and the latest kid she's stolen from Africa. Sanija announced her resignation from the leadership of the Zurich GLP. There she is, shooting her gun at the picture. It's a remake of an old picture. It's not the original picture. And she's deleted the photos, but they'd already circulated on social media, and people are quite angry, but not as angry as they'd be if a Christian politician did the same thing to, some Islamic iconography.
Yeah, of course, and that's
what if it was a picture of Muhammad or something like that?
Even if they had a picture of Muhammad, never mind shoot it. But, I mean, that's the hypocrisy that I'm, to be honest with you, I'm not bothered by iconoclasm. I don't really... But it's just the hypocrisy of it.
Yeah.
But she's quite a good shot. And I saw a picture of Jesus once and someone shot him in each hand, hole straight through. So it does happen more than you think.
I'm not reassured that she's a good shot. When I see sort of Muslim politicians who are good at violence, it's not.
No, but I read the story, and if you read the story, she was like, "Oh, I didn't actually know what those. I just needed something to target, and I didn't know what I was using as a
baby."
You didn't know. What? Like, even if you didn't, you just shoot a picture of a woman and a baby.
Yeah.
Like, it's obviously Mary and Jesus. But like you said, if this was a Christian shooting the other way around, flipping Birmingham would be burnt to the ground right now. You know what I mean? Geneva would be on fire.
You wouldn't even look what happened in Paris when Charlie Hebdo just depicted Muhammad, which is, it's I don't know. And if you're a Muslim and you feel that strongly about your prophet or your religious figures, to then do that, Like, you're more sensitive to it than I am. That's what I'm saying.
And this is what you're saying before about how there's two tiers. Like on one side, if you're on the western side, then you get the full force of the law. You get all the approbation of society. Everybody slams down on you. But she is almost being forgiven already for shooting these pictures. The party, I think, is already making noises that it's going to let her back in. She'd be in jail if she was a Christian
and I think
politician.
it's probably a bit of an older story, but I think this is the problem with things like the opening ceremony of the Olympics, isn't it? When they made a mockery of the Last Supper, it gives you carte blanche. It sort of makes you think, oh, this is fair game.
And they pretend it's like it's some sort of edgy thing when it's the safest thing you can possibly do.
So safe.
Well, finally, we saw space history this week with the first ever privately funded spacewalk. Billionaire Jared Isaacman stepped out of the Crew Dragon spacecraft at an orbit of 700 kilometres. He was one of 2 crew members of SpaceX's Polaris Dawn mission to do the walk. Now, this was crazy.
SpaceX. Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, Earth sure looks like a perfect world.
So there he is, out of the pod and testing the spacesuit. That's some way to test a spacesuit. I'd rather do it on Earth instead of in space.
Billionaires just literally have too much money. If they're not trying to kill themselves in a submarine, they're flying hanging off the outside of a...
Do you know what I heard? It's really dangerous, like 5 miles under the sea. I'm going to go 80 miles into... Why can't you stay in the middle where you've got all your money and your champagne?
This is SpaceX. So this is designed by Elon Musk. And I've been in a Tesla. It was great. And it didn't crash.
Oh, yeah, but have you seen the Cybertrucks all falling up? You can pull them apart, apparently.
Really?
Yeah, allegedly.
Just a tin opener.
Yeah, apparently they're all like...
Justin doesn't even believe we went to the moon.
I don't. Well, I don't know about that, but I think that was a fisheye lens. Let's just say that. No, that's a conspiracy.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, would you go to space?
No, no, absolutely not. I don't even like going on fairground rides, mate.
Cool. And the spacesuits are cool now. They used to be those big marshmallowy things, and now this guy's in a.
You know when people say astronauts said, oh, the thing was we looked out and we saw the Earth and this blue marble, and we just realised that we all should love each other. I don't want that feeling.
Okay, well, up next, it's Mark Dolan tonight. What have you got for us this evening, Mark?
Well, we've got a busy show. Carol Vorderman is complaining about this new Labour government, except that she campaigned for Keir Starmer to enter Downing Street. So I'll be dealing with Carol Vorderman in no uncertain terms, in my big opinion, in just a couple of minutes' time. Plus, big news. Hugh Edwards is back. Find out in my take at 10 what he's up to. You really won't believe it. Plus, my Mark Meets guest is a biographer of the Beatles, first book about the Fab Four in 20 years. And boy, we got some stories.
Amazing. I can't wait to see what you say about Carol Vorderman. I think I preferred her when she was flogging dodgy loans to confused old people. Anyway, thanks to my brilliant panel tonight with Darius Davies and Justin Panks, 2 brilliant comedians. Make sure you see them on tour. You got any dates coming up?
No.
Justin, are you more successful?
I'm more successful, but just as unorganised. So I can't tell you where I'm going to be.
You can find them on the internet. You can listen to their podcast, the Free Speech Podcast, and we'll see you again next week. And don't forget Headliners as well tonight at 11 p.m. I'll be on tonight, so see you then. Goodbye.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, we've got a bit of a mix in the weather for this weekend. Sunny spells, blustery showers, also some cloud and some outbreaks of rain, but lots of fine weather around too. And the reason for this mix is that we've got high pressure to the south giving us those fine conditions, but we've also got a weather front that's slowly sinking its way southeastwards across the country, bringing us that cloud and rain. Now, as we head into this evening, that cloud and rain will slowly move its way into northern areas. And behind it, we've got plenty of blustery showers moving their way into western parts of Scotland. But to the far south, that's where it's going to be clear and dry and feeling quite chilly as soon as the sun goes down tonight. May even see a little bit of grass frost in rural spots down to the south. So to start Sunday then, as I say, plenty of showers moving their way into western and northern parts of Scotland. Across Northern Ireland and just into the Scottish borders, a fairly cloudy start, but that will break up as we head through the day. Cloud and outbreaks of rain and drizzle, which could be a touch heavy over hills across northern areas of England and Wales. But as I say, across the south after a chilly night, that is going to make it feel cold on Sunday to begin with. Through the day, though, things are going to warm up. Where we have this band of cloud, rain and drizzle, that may just linger on for a time, so quite a damp day for some northern areas of England and Wales. Sunny spells and blustery showers through into Scotland. Some of these could be heavy with some hail and thunder. But once again, down to the south and southeast, that's where they'll hold on to the warmer weather and largely dry as well. Now, for the start of the new week, we'll start to see high pressure taking hold, which means for most of the country, largely fine and dry conditions, plenty of sunny spells around. You might just see a build of high cloud in the northwest with a weather front down out into the Atlantic. And that high pressure does hold on, which means plenty of fine and settled weather for the beginning of next week.